What happened when the sky above Russia's Marinoka airbase lit up by three small drones no bigger than a suitcase? In under 3 minutes, Ukraine rewrote the rules of modern warfare. What followed left Russian command and the entire military world stunned. In just under 180 seconds, Ukraine delivered a stunning blow to the heart of Russia's long-range airstrike campaign on the Eastern Front. 2 Su-34 fighter jets were completely wiped out. 2 others were heavily damaged, rendered incapable of flight. And it didn't stop. There, a strategic bomb depot erupted in a chain reaction, incinerating dozens of KAB-500 and FAB-250 bombs before they could even be loaded. Months of careful preparation went up in flames in a single, devastating moment. Don't forget to hit subscribe to stay updated on the latest developments in modern warfare around the world. The attack struck directly at the heart of Marinka Air Base in the Volgrad Regiona site, long regarded as an iron shield, untouchable by enemy forces. There was no early warning. No interception systems responded in time. Everything unfolded in eerie silence until it was torn apart by fire, smoke, and sheer destructive force. But the most shocking part wasn't the destruction, it was the method. Just 3 small UAVs, each costing less than $100,000, breached Russia's entire defense network, pierced straight into the heart of the base, and successfully stopped an airstrike that had been months in the making. In a brief moment, the air superiority Russia had painstakingly built was brought to a halt by Ukraine's boldness, intelligence, and pinpoint precision. At 3:14 a.m., 3 small UAVs launched from a covert location in Sumy province, following a pre-programmed flight path, 438 kilometers deep into Russian airspace, crossing the Don River, skimming past Belgorod and Voronezh, and heading straight for Marinoka. Each drone carried a 20-kilogram C-4 warhead with a single mission strike directly at the vital core of Russia's main airbase. No high-altitude flight, no direct breakthroughs. They crawled along the terrain, hugging civilian air corridors, exploiting radar interference from urban heat zones and low vegetation to vanish like ghosts. It sends chills down your spine to realize, while every Russian radar was online, every defense system active, those 3 machines were silently slipping through every second, every meter, every angle pre-calculated. No engine roar. Just the eerie whisper of wind brushing the treetops, and a terrifying kind of electronic silence. These weren't just drones, they were 3 invisible blades, counting down the seconds before plunging straight into the heart of Marinoka. For weeks leading up to the strike, Ukraine showed no signs of haste. This wasn't a blind attack they watched. They listened, and they waited. From above, satellite imagery revealed abnormal patterns around the Su-34 maintenance zones. Ammunition trucks crowding the area, bomb depots repeatedly opened, and bursts of radio traffic at odd hours. On the ground, electronic intel units silently intercepted encrypted signal-severing frequency every wave pulse. All signs pointed to one conclusion. Russia was quietly preparing for a large-scale bombing campaign, targeting strategic cities like Kharkiv, Sumy, or even Dnipro. But the mood wasn't rushed, it was surgical focus, like a sniper holding his breath before pulling the trigger. A storm was brewing, but Ukraine didn't wait to take the hit. They saw the pieces moving, read the board, and prepared a counterstrike with the calm precision of someone who had already mapped out the entire game before the first move was made. No alarms, no panic, just a cold, calculated silence hanging over faint signals only the patient could detect. Ukraine didn't rush to strike. They listened. They peeled back every layer of encrypted chatter, every strange radio pulse coming from Mariinovka. Each time the bomb depot doors opened, every unusual movement around the Su-34 hangars, every ammunition truck arriving in the dead of night, everything was logged, analyzed, cross-referenced. They saw a pattern. They detected a rhythm. A covert airstrike operation was taking shape in the shadows. And while Russia confidently prepared its strategic assault, Ukraine was already rewriting the ending not with weapons, but with data. Not with heavy artillery, but with the ability to read the battlefield from afar. The dominant feeling here was silent focus, sharp calculation, no chaos, no recklessness, just a chain of reconnaissance links stitched together. And once the picture was clear, there was no need for guesswork. Ukraine acted once, with precision, with pain, and deep enough to change the course of the war. Over an hour of absolute silence, Drone 1 flew at a steady 120 meters, skimming just above the treetops, evading every radar sweep. At exactly 2,300 meters from target, it shifted into attack mode, accelerating to 140 kilometers per h. No alarms, no interceptors. Just a cold, calculated approach programmed down to every angle. Ahead stood Hangar 2, where Su-34 Red 34 had just completed repairs. Drone 1 carried a specialized shaped charge, tungsten core, hardened steel casing, dual-stage fuse. Descending at a 28 degrees angle, it pierced the weakest point of the hangar's roof structure. The emotion wasn't fire and fury, it was surgical precision, a strike like a needle plunging into a pressure point. In less than a second, the explosion unleashed a plasma jet at over 9,000 m/s, burning hotter than 2,500 degrees Celsius, shattering the hangar's central beam. The Su-34 was consumed in flames within 20 seconds. No chance of escape, no possibility of rescue. This wasn't an airstrike, it was a technological execution, cold and merciless. Just seconds after the first Su-34 was engulfed in flames, Drone 2 veered off course, dropped to 110 meters, and skimmed past the steel perimeter fence, heading straight for the eastern parking zone. On the control screen, its camera switched to image recognition mode. Long fuselage, swept wings, the signature gull-shaped silhouette of the Su-34 emerged through a haze of smoke. It was Red 23, confirmed by satellite, to be armed with 2 KAB-500 laser-guided bombs. Drone 2 didn't aim for the cockpit. It dove at a 35-degree angle, locking onto the junction between the fuselage and the bomb pylon, the most volatile, flammable point on the entire aircraft. The tension was razor-sharp, then exploded in an instant. Just 1.4 seconds after impact, the first KAB-500 detonated, ripping off the tail and left engine. The second followed, unleashing a fireball over 60 meters high. The blast pressure exceeded 70 psi, wiping the entire area clean. One strike, one jet destroyed, another crippled beyond repair. No room for recovery, no margin for error. Everything unfolded with surgical precision as if the attack had been scripted down to the final spark. As fire and smoke from Drone 2's explosion engulfed the entire Parking Bay 3 zone, Drone 3 instantly shifted course. In less than 2 seconds, its onboard AI activated the backup plan: strike the main southern bomb depot. Despite GPS jamming, the drone held its trajectory using image recognition and gyroscopic data. Without hesitation, Drone 3 dove toward the sloped tin roof, the structural weak point of the aging Soviet-era facility. The emotion in that moment was urgent, tense, but unwavering, like the final blade in a silent checkmate, ending the entire operation in one decisive plunge. At 4:26 a.m., Drone 3 dove at a 27-degree angle, slamming into the seam between the sloped tin roof and the load-bearing wall of the southern bomb depot-worn weld line with no blast reinforcement. The initial explosion was small, almost silent. But just 0.88 seconds later, the first Fab 250 bomb detonated. The shockwave crushed the roof, generating over 100 psi of pressure within a 30-meter radius, enough to blast through brick walls and hurl objects weighing hundreds of kilograms. 2 seconds later, the entire cluster of KAB-500S ignited in a chain reaction. Within 6.2 seconds, a fireball over 200 meters high erupted, dragging with it metal debris, black smoke, and unbearable heat. The emotion in that moment: panic, disorientation, paralysis. The blast was so massive, it was visible on civilian satellite imagery. A massive steel shard tore through the tail of Su-34. Red 29 parked more than 160 meters away. No more depot, no more bombs, no more technical zone. The third strike didn't just end an attack, it ended Marinoka's immediate operational capability. What was once deemed untouchable was now nothing but fire and ash. In under 3 minutes, the entire western technical zone of Marinoka Air Base was turned into a danger zone. 2 Su-34S were completely incinerated, reduced to scorched titanium frames and twisted composite fragments. 2 others were heavily damaged radar systems shattered, tail fins torn apart, engines cracked under the pressure of the shockwave. The blast at the bomb depot triggered a fireball over 200 meters high, captured by commercial satellites through multiple cloud layers. The extreme heat created a closed-loop convection system, sucking in air from all directions and forcing smoke, toxins, and molten debris skyward. The emotional tone: shock, chaos, helplessness. Russia immediately redeployed Pantsir air defense systems from the front lines to the rear. activated 24/7 UAV surveillance, and ordered emergency inspections of all munitions depots across its territory. But it was too late. Modern Okaone, three key support points for Russia's Su-34 fleet operating in Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia was paralyzed for at least 10 to 14 days. A critical gap had opened at the very moment the war was escalating, and no one could react in time. The question now is no longer, how do we shoot down a drone, but rather, how do we make such attacks not worth attempting in the first place? When three low-cost UAVs can wipe out tens of millions of dollars in military assets in under 3 minutes, the entire foundation of strategic thinking must shift. The emotional tone here is one of deep awakening, a cold slap to blind faith in traditional defense systems. If Ukraine continues adapting at this pace, Russia won't have much time left to find an answer, and history doesn't wait for those who fall behind. And as the dust began to settle over the night sky in western Russia, what remained was not just the wreckage of military hardware, but a clear sign that the strategic balance was shifting. Ukraine's UAV strike on the Russian airbase wasn't merely a retaliatory blow. It was a message. There is no longer such a thing as a completely safe place. It no longer takes tanks or rocket artillery now. A small, low-cost drone operated from hundreds of kilometers away, can paralyze a critical logistics hub. Russia may have grown accustomed to dictating the tempo of the battlefield, but the moment those drones pierced through layers of air defense, penetrated deep into its territory, and struck a sensitive site, that was the moment it became clear. Modern warfare no longer has fixed front lines. The sky is no longer the exclusive domain of supersonic fighter jets. It has become the playground of strategists who operate with signals, coordinates, and timing calculated down to the second. This wasn't just a battle. It was a warning to every Russian military base. If Ukraine can do this once, they can do it again, faster, more precisely, and with more advanced technology. In a war where information, speed, and surprise determine the outcome, UAVs are no longer just weapons. They are tools that are reshaping the entire landscape of military strategy. The question is no longer what just happened, but what happens next. And if history marks this strike as a turning point, then the future may hold even more battles where no one can sleep soundly, not even deep within the rear lines.